Peace be still, everyone. This is Tosha, and you are tuning into the Supernova Tosha Show podcast, the show that addresses social issues and how it affects our community. And today we are going to be discussing the tragedies that's been happening in the Dominican Republic. Excuse me. I've always had, since I was a child, have issues pronouncing this word. Tragedies and also tragedies. I don't know what it is, but I get tongue-tied, tongue-twisted. They are not the easiest words for me to pronounce. So I know what the word is, but it may sound a little funny coming out of my mouth. So greetings and salutations to all of you, my followers, and those who are keeping in touch with everything that's been going on with Dominican Republic. So two things I wanted to discuss. I want to address two recent and tragic events in the Dominican Republic. The first one is the devastating collapse of the nightclub, the roof of the nightclub. So on April 8th, 2025, the roof of Jet Set nightclub in Santo Domingo collapsed during a live performance by renowned merengue singer Ruby Perez. The tragedy resulted in at least 221 deaths and 255 injuries. That's what we had thus far, and the toll may have risen from the time this podcast aired. So notable figures among the deceased, include Ruby Perez himself, and there's a former Major League Baseball players Octavio Datel and Tony Enrique Blanco Cabrera. Also, Monte Cristi Provincial, that's the governor. Governor Nelsie Cruz. Among the death were some very notable people. And our authorities have initiated an investigation into the cause of the collapse. And President Luis Abinader declared 3 days of a national mourning in response to this disaster. So, of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to those people in the nightclub. It was such a tragic event, especially when from some of the clips that I saw, there were actually debris from club goers, debris falling from that ceiling. And, they were pointing to it and they could see the debris falling and coming down while they were in the club. And just witnessing, and then minutes after the debris was falling, the roof unfortunately collapsed and trapping people in the building. And of course, again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people that perished and to the injured in the Dominican Republic club Jet Set, in the nightclub club Jet Set. All right, so we're also going to move on to another tragic story, the disappearance of Sudiksha Kanaki. This one, so if you're a parent, not even if you're just a parent, but just if you, just a human being, knowing that there's a family out there that really, they don't know what happened to her. They say that paradise is only perfect on postcards. Palm trees sway in the breeze, the ocean sparkles under the moonlight, and the music of the Caribbean hums in the background like a lullaby. But behind the beauty, sometimes darkness creeps in. This is a story of Sudiksha Kanaki, a bright, ambitious 20-year-old junior at the University of Pittsburgh who vanished without a trace while on spring break trip in the Dominican Republic. It started like any other vacation, a sun, sand celebration, and it ended in silence. And to this day, the question still haunts her family, friends, and the authorities. What happened to Sudiksha? So I'd like to go ahead and play you a video of the missing student, and go ahead and watch and let me know what your thoughts are.
Sheriff Mike Chapman of the Loudoun County, Virginia Sheriff's Office is here with me now. The Kanaki family lives there. Sheriff, good morning to you. Any overnight updates on your end that we may not be privy to yet?
Well, first of all, our thoughts and prayers are with the family here. We're hoping for a positive outcome still on this. We're working very closely with the authorities down there, the Dominican authorities. We have certainly our people that are connected with the U.S. Embassy down there, the Indian Embassy, and our other counterparts, our federal counterparts, whether it's the FBI, DEA, HSI. We're trying to develop as much information as we possibly can. We're looking at, obviously, phone records, phone numbers, text messages, anything that we can develop along those lines, I think will be helpful for us. I do know the Dominican authorities are leading this. They've been very active, obviously, as you can see with the searches, with the helicopters, with drones, with boats, and we're supporting them every way that we can. We're hoping that the interviews glean additional information. We do know that she went missing early morning Thursday morning, and I think that was the last. There was some video of that. Aside from that, we're still working through all this and hoping that we get some very concrete information here as we go forward.
Yeah, I understand a young man who went missing, or went swimming with her, I should say, is now reportedly being questioned by investigators. Also, authorities have come forward and said, they believe she could have drowned. Is the family buying that, the drowning claim? And do you buy that?
Well, I don't know. And I think it's a little, for me, I think it's a little premature to go to that conclusion right now. They have not located her. So I think it's a little premature to go to that conclusion. I think, and I'm not sure exactly where the family is on this. I know I did try to reach out to the father yesterday, was not able to get through. I do know our investigators have had contact with him earlier when he reported the incident. So we're trying to work through this. We want to still hope and pray that this comes to a positive outcome here. But anything right now is a possibility, and so we're pursuing this from every angle that we possibly can with every investigative agency that we possibly can.
Yeah, and when I mentioned that, that a young man is being questioned, who is that person? I mean, a third party? Because as far as I understand, she was one of 6 female students traveling in Punta Cana. So was he not part of her group?
She was with 6 females. I don't believe he was part of that group, but I do, believe that it may have been somebody that they met down there. I don't want to speculate any more than that, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on this until that interview is done,
Sure.
And until we know a little bit more. So anything right now again remains a possibility. We're working as closely as we can. I do know that the Dominican authorities are interviewing, re-interviewing. I believe we have providing assistance down there with those interviews. So I think we're doing everything that we possibly can to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. It's now been 4 days. She was last seen about 4:50 in the morning on Thursday. So 4 days later now, what's the focus today, and how dire is the situation?
Well, I mean, certainly it was dire as soon as she went missing. And I think, we got to look at every possibility here. We can't rule anything in or rule anything out. It's still, I mean, I know it's been 4 days, but it's still early as far as the investigation goes. We want to make sure that we get it right. We want to make sure that we don't jump to any conclusions, and that we uncover, turn over every rock in this to get it where it needs to go.
Well, praying for answers today for that family, especially. Sheriff Mike Chapman of the Loudoun County, Virginia Sheriff's Office. Thank you for your time, sir. I know you're busy. Thanks for watching.
So, again, by the time this podcast would have aired, it would be past 4 days, of course. So Sudiksha Kanaki wasn't just another college student. She was driven, compassionate, and curious about the world. And so she was studying biology on the pre-med track, and she was known for her bright smile, her tireless work ethic, and her unwavering support for her classmates. Friends describe her as someone who always had a word of encouragement, someone who always carried an inner light. As you can see from her picture, she's a beautiful young lady. Looks like she had so much going for her. So when spring break rolled around, Sudiksha did what many young college students do. They booked a trip with friends to Punta Cana, one of the Dominican Republic's most popular tourist destinations. And with its turquoise waters and all-inclusive resorts, it was the perfect place to unwind before final seasons. She was absolutely excited, and her Instagram was filled with tropical snapshots, palm trees, poolside selfies, dance parties at sunset, just everything, just, picture perfect, the way that, you'd want your uh, spring break to be. On the night of Wednesday, April 3rd, 2025, Sudiksha and her group of friends made plans to celebrate. And they had been drinking, they were dancing, and they were, soaking up the vibrant night scene. And around 3:45 a.m., they were seen on hotel security footage returning to the Rio. In the Republica Hotel. It's a beachfront resort known for its lively nightlife. Instead of going to sleep, Sudiksha and 7 others walked towards the beach just after around 4 a.m. What exactly happened next remains murky. Surveillance footage shows them walking along the shore. They were barefoot, laughing, and the ocean just was rolling at their feet, and then she was gone. She just disappeared. Her friends say that she wandered off. Some claim that she wanted to stay out longer to take in the waves. Others say that they thought that she was following behind them as they returned to the hotel. But when they arrived back in the rooms, Sudiksha, she never did. So it was nearly around 6 a.m. before they realized that she had not come back. At first, they thought that she might have fallen asleep somewhere, but as the hours passed, panic set in and they reported her missing to hotel staff, then to local authorities. The Dominican police launched a search within hours for this young woman. Now, as news of her disappearance spread, the Dominican Navy search and rescue teams and the U.S. Embassy joined efforts. There were drones, and they had helicopters, they had divers, they had tracking dogs. Basically, everything and everyone was deployed. So for days, they combed the beach, the ocean, the nearby roads, the brush, looking for any sign of her. They also studied the tide patterns as well, because witnesses were interviewed. Cell phone data was pulled, but nothing concrete emerged. No screams were heard, no signs of a struggle, no calls were made from her phone after 4:15 a.m. Her belongings, her phone, her sandals, her towels were all left untouched in the hotel room. And it just appeared as if she had just vanished right into the night out of thin air. So her parents flew to the Dominican Republic within 24 hours. Her mother, through tears, pleaded with the media. She says, "My daughter is not someone who would run away. She's responsible, so please help us to find her." Friends had vigils back in Pittsburgh, and professors offered public support. The university coordinated with authorities, hoping for answers. And as often happens with high profile disappearances, rumors begin to swirl. Some online speculated that Sudiksha may have been kidnapped, possibly by someone lurking on the beach. Others wondered about her travel companions. Why had they let her wander off alone in the early hours of the morning? So I'm not sure if a lot has changed from when I was a youngin', hanging out, partying with my gal pals. But we always had a rule. We come together, we came together, so we're leaving together. And, if a young man, struck your fancy, you would exchange phone numbers, because back in the dinosaur days of the 1900s, when I was young and partying, we didn't have cell phones. We had pagers, beepers. So at one point, you would just exchange numbers, or you would do pagers, beepers. And then when cell phones finally came into play, we'd exchange numbers, and I'm like, that's it. We came together, we leave together. It's girl code. So, no, you don't get to go home with him, and he can't come to us and be like, "Hey, I'll take her home." Nope, that's not going to happen. You exchange numbers. We all go home together after everyone's dropped home, gone home. What you do after that, none of my business. But As long as we come together, we are leaving together. Girl code. So I'm not sure what has changed over the years, but being a mom, I had to have this come to Jesus talk and explain that this is what we do. And I don't have sons, but if you have a son, if you're a parent of young boys, young men, um, it's time that as parents we um, I don't even want to say train them right, because there are times where you have a good household and you have multiple children, and you'll just have that one that just does whatever. But as long as you have that talk and instill, be virtuous, that's somebody's child, somebody's daughter, have some morals about you, and just do the right thing. I'm not sure the story with this young man who's saying, because there's footage of them drinking and not doing so well, and then when they were walking towards the beach, I'm not sure how he just his stories just don't align to me, and it's a lot going on, and I have a lot of questions. Now, questions about resort security has also emerged. Were there cameras facing the beach? Were there patrols in the area? The hotel remained mostly silent, citing the ongoing investigation. Another theory pointed towards a rip current or accidental drowning. While possible, search teams found no body, no clothing, no evidence of a struggle, or no slip into the sea. Investigators from the U.S., from the United States and India, which Sadiqi's family is of Indian origin, and the Dominican Republic reviewed every lead, but there was still nothing definitive. Excuse me. So weeks have passed and the search continued. But then, optimism has faded, and posters of Sudiksha's face were plastered across tourist areas, airports, social media. Her smile, a reminder of who she was: a daughter, a student, and a dreamer. Her family refused to give up. They held press conferences, worked with private investigators, and even offered a reward, but no suspects were identified. No conclusive evidence even surfaced. So, um, the beach where she vanished remains a popular tourist destination, but for her family, it's a site of heartbreak, and every wave that crashes on the shore just feels like another unanswered question. And I see online that a lot of people are saying, when will these people learn? Stay away from these countries that are not safe. And I just want to say, Dominican Republic is a country that I would love to visit, and this is not going to deter me. You have to understand that the her disappearance had I don't think it has anything to do with Dominican Republic. She was seen with a young man who is American, and he was the last person to see her. So, I'd still be looking at him. They should have administered a lie detector test, which they didn't. The authorities held on to him, but I just feel like there's just something that he's not saying. I personally feel as though if a riptide took her away, her body we would have seen something, even if she was bitten by a shark, something. But there's nothing. Her Nothing. Not even. I guess she was barefoot, but there's nothing. There's not a finger. There's not teeth. There's not a head. There's not an arm. Just absolutely nothing. And I'm not sure. I'm not buying the whole tide coming in and washing her away. But anyway, like I said, I think there are some things that were missed. The fact that they had the dogs, and they had divers, and they had people just scouring the beach looking for her. I don't know. I don't know if she was taken. But then you have to think about it when you're on a resort, right? And you're at the beach on the resort, there's people constantly, because there's just, especially if they have a nightclub somewhere there. There's just people constantly there. Where did she go? You saw her walking, and then that was it. She just disappeared. So just something is off. I really don't. My gut feeling, I don't think she drowned. I don't think the ocean took her. So I'm gonna go ahead and play another video so we can get a little bit more information on, um, with Sudiksha. Let's go ahead and roll that second video, and you watch for yourself. And if you have any conclusions or any thoughts, go ahead and leave them down.
My next guest knows a few things about surviving ocean conditions and what it takes to find a body. Doug Bishop is an expert diver who focuses on missing persons cases. He's the founder of United Search Corps, and he joins me now live. Doug, I wanted to talk to you about some specifics with regard to the conditions on the shore at the time when Sudiksha may have gone missing, may have drowned. We don't know what it is. Could be both. Specifically, the tides at that exact time that those kids all went out to the beach. They were going out there at about 4:15 a.m. Were the tides coming in, or were the tides going out at that time?
And that's a great question. So we were able to learn that the high tide peaked there in that particular area near the resort at 4:21 a.m. That means whenever this incident occurred, it would have been during the ebb tide, which when a tide peaks, the following flow out is ebb. And that means the current is going out. You have sweeping currents that are coming off the shore. We know there was wind advisories and also high wave advisories. He admitted that he himself was knocked down and sort of struggled to get back to shore. These type of tides will absolutely create complications, not just for survivability, but also for the search. This type of tide, if you lose an individual in it, has the ability to drag you out upwards of a mile in certain situations.
So let's talk about some other conditions at the shore, not just the tide coming in or the tide going out, but things called rip tides and sweeps. Yes. Can you explain to the viewers what a sweep is and what a rip tide is and how it might, and I'm just going to let you know that the video we're watching is from that day. So when you see a red flag and you see roiling surf right at the water's edge where it meets the sand, that was the condition that exact day.
Yeah. So a rip current occurs when you have sweeping tides that go into each other and then form a rip current out. And so it feeds the currents coming into itself and then pushes it out. And these rip tides are almost always during high tides, and they're the most aggressive during these times. And it's not everybody's prepared, but you always want to remain calm, try to swim parallel to the shore, but you definitely don't want to struggle a lot because there's a lot of force. And anybody that's ever been to Punta Cana knows that the currents in this area are really, really strong. Even though the waves themselves aren't stronger to what we are accustomed to in other vacation areas, these waves and the currents there in particular are very, very strong. And please stick to your resorts if you're there. The water there is 80 degrees in this particular scenario, which does aid in the search process. When you have 80-degree water, it speeds up the decomposition process in order to find human remains in such a vast body of water, such as the ocean.
I'm going to get to that in a moment because there's some issues with if someone does drown, do they sink? Do they float? When do they float? I'll get to that in a moment, but I want to stay with riptides for a moment and sweep because I have myself left a beach chair, gone into the ocean, puddled around only to look to the beach and realized I'm about 50 to 100 yards down the beach from where I went in. Is that because of a sweeping tide that takes you down a beach?
Yeah, you have a lot of these parallel currents that run along to the beach, and it happens within minutes. You can go in, you're somewhere very safe, and when you are off your feet, such as swimming or buoyant, it will take you very quickly without much alarm. And then you look up when you stand up and you're way down from where you went in. If you add, a rip current to this effect, as well as, winds and also the ebb tide, meaning the tide is now going out right after it has peaked. These things complicate, survivability and also search big time.
Let me ask you this again for those who hear these terms and wonder, well, what's the difference between a tide and a riptide? Is this an accurate description? There's a lot of water coming into the beach with these big roiling white waves, right? And it's got to go back out. And so a rip current and a rip tide is like a narrow river that you can't see necessarily that's going out to the ocean. And it's like rapids, meaning if you end up sweeping down the beach on your back and enjoying yourself in a swim, you could suddenly end up in rapids going out to sea. Is that a correct description?
That is absolutely correct. Where you have a lot of water coming in, and depending on the underwater topography and also how they're hitting the shore and coming together, they will create rip currents, which is what typically lifeguards are from an elevated position and are looking for, which is water sweeping together and then going out into sea.
Thanks.
All right. So, based upon that information, he really didn't answer the question that she asked that I was hoping to hear about, if someone had drowned or, would they sink? Would they swim? I was curious to hear his take on it. But for me, I don't, I feel like if the reason why mobsters, right, used to put bricks on the bodies is so that they can sink, right? Because a body's gonna float. That's what I always thought, that the body floats, especially after drowning, the gases and everything. When you get bloated, your body floats. So I'm thinking, why isn't there a body? Okay, some people said, well, she could have been bitten by a shark. She could have been eaten by a shark. But do sharks devour everything? Like, I maybe it was a shark, multiple sharks, a school of sharks. I don't know. But it's just, in my opinion, I don't think she drowned. And when I saw the video of him walking back from the beach, he just looked, like, hey, I just went for a swim, and now I'm just going to mosey on back to my hotel room. He didn't have a look of concern. He didn't have a look of fright. He didn't have a look of anything. But, the story that he gave is that when he passed out and woke up, he thought that she returned to her hotel room. So maybe he thought she returned to her hotel room, and so he just thought nothing of it. But, in other reports, they're saying that his story changed more than once. So as the parent, I think I would have him take a lie detector test, because I just, I personally don't buy it. I don't buy his story. I don't buy any of it. And not that I'm blaming her friends, but shame on them for not making sure that she came back with them. Obviously, she was drinking. She wasn't clear in the head. And at that point, you take responsible for your sister and say, hey, friend, sister, a girl, you got to come back with us. You need to sleep this off. So as of today, Sudiksha Kanaki is still missing. There is no official cause, no closure, and no peace. She is one of many young travelers who have vanished in foreign countries. Some found, some never heard from again. Her case raises critical questions about safety, responsibility, and the often overlooked dangers that can lurk even in places meant for joy and escape. Her story is not over. Not yet. It isn't. Her family continues to hope and to pray and to push for answers. And maybe, just maybe, someone somewhere knows something. Someone somewhere definitely knows something. So until then, Sudiksha remains a haunting mystery, a life interrupted, a promise unfulfilled, and a reminder that paradise, no matter how beautiful, can sometimes hide the darkest of secrets. And I just want to say, since I researched this, her father actually has asked the Dominican Republic, the authorities, to declare her deceased. And then that has also, has some people's ears going up, going, well, it's been less than a month. and you already want to declare her deceased. Does he have something to do with her disappearance? I don't know. I would hate to think so as her father. I don't know about that, but he has declared her deceased. He has asked for them to declare her deceased. I'm not sure. I haven't followed up to see if they've done so. The only thing I could think of is if he has an insurance policy on her. If he does declare her deceased, then he can collect on the policy. That's the only reason, that's the only rationale that I can come up with of why he would do so in such a short time. I wouldn't do it. I don't care how much money. I don't care if I took out $1 million policy on my kid, $10 million of policy on my kid. There's absolutely no way, no ma'am, no ham, no spam. I would turn Dominican Republic upside down. And a lot of people are saying this is just like the Natalee Holloway story. Natalee's mom actually moved so to the island so that she could find out what happened to her daughter. And I think that took 20 years to solve. But the person that last saw Natalee Holloway alive, he was the culprit. He was the one who took her life. And he finally confessed after he was caught. Basically, he unalived another young woman. I forgot where he was, but the hotel surveillance saw him going to her room, and the hotel surveillance saw him leaving her room, and then they found her in the hotel room. She was deceased, and so he had basically no. He confessed. He confessed to it, and then he confessed to the unaliving of Natalee Holloway. Took 20 years, but he confessed. So I know if I was Sudiksha's parent, there is absolutely no way I'm asking you to declare her. I'm turning Dominican Republic upside down. I'm digging in the sands on the beach. I'm not even sleeping at this point. So again, we continue to hope and pray, and just pray that they get some closure and that she is found and hopefully alive. So, to my loyal family, the Supernova Tosha Show podcast can be heard on these apps such as Spotify, Pandora, TuneIn, or iHeartRadio. And the goal is to be on the 10 best podcast lists to listen to. So please share, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and spread the word. I am so grateful for your time. I thank you so much for being attentive. I appreciate your presence. Be careful, be safe, walk good, and peace be still.